Hello there, I'm Shafika Razali. Thanks for joining me this Tuesday on 7Edition. The headlines. Bill to lower voting age to 18 passed. Court to decide on identity of the men in viral sex video. And water disruption to affect over 3 million users. Good evening. Police will leave it to the court to reveal the identity of the men in the viral sex video allegedly implicating a federal minister. Federal Criminal Investigation Department CID Director Datuk Huzair Mohammed said investigations are still underway and once completed, a report will be submitted to the Attorney General's chambers for further action. He mentioned that the investigation team had received a report on the video from Cybersecurity Malaysia after undertaking the technical and forensic analysis of the video, which went viral on social media. Datuk Huzair, however, declined to comment on the arrest of former Santubong PKR Youth Chief Haziq Aziz and 5 other individuals allegedly involved with the case. Meanwhile, Inspector General of Police Datuk Sri Abdul Hamid Bado said police will expand the scope of the investigation, including the involvement of a state assemblyman in Selangor. Meanwhile, police are waiting for the medical and forensic reports in order to wind up investigations into the alleged rape of an Indonesian maid by a Perak State Executive Councillor. Perak Police Chief Datuk Razaruddin Hussein said the police are expecting to receive the reports on the suspect as well as the alleged victims in 2 or 3 weeks before a decision can be made whether to go ahead with the prosecution or otherwise. He also said that there was no element of bias in the police investigation into the alleged incident. Responding to calls by some people to re-arrest EXCO member Paul Yong, he said Yong was allowed bail according to the law and the standard operating procedure. The law provides for bail to be granted in cases where bail is allowed. On July 8th, Yong's 23-year-old Indonesian maid lodged a police report claiming that she was raped by the EXCO member at his home in Meru. Yong was arrested the next day and released on police bail the same day. In Malacca, a 69-year-old woman from Batang Melaka Jasin sustained serious facial injuries after she was allegedly assaulted by her agitated grandson-in-law yesterday at home because she did not immediately stop his 8-month-old daughter from crying. District Police Chief Deputy Superintendent Arshad Abu said the perpetrator, who had 2 previous criminal records for drug abuse, has been detained in Bachang at 11 p.m. the same day and is being probed under the Penal Code for voluntarily causing hurt. Meanwhile, in the Ayeh Keroh Magistrates Court, Mahat Jalil, a 56-year-old former soldier, was charged today with the murder of his wife at a house in Taman Sri Duyung on July 3rd. The charge under the Penal Code carries a mandatory death sentence upon conviction. The media had earlier reported that the father of 4 stabbed the 55-year-old victim, Samnah Mohammed, 4 times after a small quarrel broke out between them before he stabbed himself. The court fixed August 14th for mention, pending a mental health examination report from Hospital Permai in Johor Bahru. Over in Selangor, the Selayang Magistrates Court today issued a 7-day remand order for an Indonesian construction worker to assist investigations into a child molestation case involving a 9-year-old girl at a supermarket in Rawang last Wednesday. The probe is being carried out under the Sexual Offences Against Children Act. The federal constitution was amended today to lower the voting age to 18. The Dewan Rakyat passed a historic bill with a total of 211 votes. Now, Prime Minister Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, who tabled the bill earlier today, said the government also agreed to the opposition's proposal for the automatic registration of voters. He said the amendment was proof of Pakatan Harapan's commitment to realise the promise it made in its manifesto. With the passing of the bill, qualified Malaysians residents who are 21 and above but have not been registered will be automatically registered as voters. The bill requires a two-thirds majority of at least 148 votes from the 222-seat Dewan Rakyat to amend Article 119 and Article 47 of the Federal Constitution. Now, for more insights on this topic, joining us on the line now is political analyst Dr. Siva Murugan Pandian. Good evening, Doctor. Thanks for joining us on 7Edition.
Thank you.
Now that the voting age has been lowered to 18, many have said that voter education should be increased for young voters. What do you propose should be done?
For me, it's a history when the opposition, together with the ruling government, decided to vote for a change in lowering the age of voting today in ASEAN. It's only Singapore now left with 21 as the voting age. In fact, in Indonesia, we saw almost 30% of national voters belong to 17 to 25 age group, become a decisive factor in the last election. In fact, I would say the voting pattern varies among the young nations. And of course, they have to be seen not politically apathetic or less nationalistic compared to other demographics. In fact, some didn't even bother to participate in the final vote. In America, for example, only 31% among the young voters came out and vote. In Japan, 33%, and UK, 43%. What I'm trying to say is the youth quake didn't take place elsewhere just yet, which means that even though we have lowered to 18, we need to make sure that they are provided with solid political education, and definitely the voting trend among them will depend on issues closer to GE. The political parties' ideology will not necessarily dominate or attract the concentration of young voters.
Now, Doctor, in Indonesia, the voting age is even younger at 17. What are the youth voting trends have you seen there in their recent polls? And also, what are the lessons we can learn from Indonesia?
Well, as I said earlier, 30% of national voters belong to 70-25 age group. The voting pattern varies. In fact, in Indonesia, as much as I said earlier, the voters are politically apathetic and less nationalistic. Definitely, what we can learn here is to make sure that the issues related to youth will be identified, and the engagement with political ideology not necessarily will influence their voting patterns. In fact, if you're looking at the role that needs to be played today, it starts from home. Parents will have to promote civic life engagement. Conversation about politics should no longer seen as taboo. Get them engaged in political activities and participate as well. Schools should play an important role. For me, they spend a lot of time at schools. In fact, political education engagement should start way back from the age of 13 at least, so that we don't experience what has been experienced in Indonesia or in Malaysia. In fact, they should be provided with better information, knowledge about political system, structure, leadership, so that they know they have an important role to play, which can decide the future of this nation. Media, government agencies, leaders themselves have to play a role to attract young voters, so that we don't see what had happened in Indonesia when the youth didn't come out to vote. Don't happen here, because at the end, we want to see an increase in turnout to vote as well.
Right, Dr. Siva Murugan, thanks for your thoughts and for joining us this evening. Moving on, the Prime Minister today disclosed that the government is studying the reintroduction of the teaching and learning of science and mathematics in English PPSMI policy in detail, which was first introduced in 2002. Tun Dr. Mahathir told the Dewan Rakyat that English is used internationally, including within the business community, while fluency in the language is taken into account during the hiring process.
Ilmu sains bertambah sepanjang masa hasil kaji selidik pakar yang biasanya dibuat dalam bahasa bukan bahasa Melayu. Jika seseorang itu fasih dalam bahasa sains Inggeris, ia dapat akses secara langsung kepada ilmu-ilmu yang baru ini.
The PPSMI policy, which is aimed at improving students' command of English, was dropped in 2012 amid strong protest. Now, the finance minister today said that the previous government had indeed robbed the country of 19.4 billion ringgit in what was described as missing goods and services tax (GST) refunds. Lim Guan Eng said that the GST Act clearly mandated that collections be entered into a trust fund to allow input tax refund applications to be processed within 14 days. The finance minister said that, however, this was not done in accordance with the GST Act, and instead, the GST collections were deposited directly into consolidated revenue account. In a statement, Lim said that the Attorney General has stated that this practice is against the fundamental trust law principles and trust accounting requirements and is not in line with the GST Act. Lim pointed out that such unlawful treatment of GST collections resulted in the 19.4 billion ringgit shortfall, over which he made his robbery remark in Parliament last year. The Public Accounts Committee PAC tabled its investigation report to Parliament yesterday after investigating Lim's allegations since August last year. Lim noted that his ministry will adopt the PAC's recommendations for the government to comply with existing laws in its financial administration and for officials to highlight regulatory departures without fear or favour. In other news, it looks like up to 3 million residents will have to break out their water storage containers again. 7 districts in the Klang Valley will face a major water supply disruption beginning July 23rd. Pengurusan Air Selangor, Shahbaz, says they are carrying out scheduled works at Sungai Selangor Phase 1 water treatment plant beginning 9 a.m. next Tuesday, aimed at improving water supply to Selangor, Kuala Lumpur and Putrajaya. A total of 15 local service centres will be activated at 8 a.m. on July 25th to help affected residents. Now, the disruption, interruption and supply restoration period is for 2 to 3 days and varies according to the location. Residents are advised to check Shahbaz's website for more details of the water cut schedule. Up next, a one-on-one with the world's first hijabi wrestler. Don't go anywhere. Thanks for staying with us. There are still many aspects in society that are male-dominated. Recently, however, more and more women have been breaking the stereotypes by doing and achieving things traditionally seen as being only for men, including in the wrestling scene. One young woman in particular is still making the rounds after her win at the Malaysia Pro Wrestling WrestleCon Championship. Sabrina Zainal has the story.
This is Noor Diana. She's 19, wears the hijab, and is a medical assistant in KL. So you wouldn't expect someone like this to be doing something like this. It's not a common sight to see a person of this profile to be doing something like wrestling. In fact, Diana is the first and only hijabi in the wrestling scene.
Known as Phoenix in the ring, Diana is Malaysia's and the world's first hijabi wrestler. Now, she recently broke new ground by becoming the first ever female MyPW WrestleCon champion.
Now, you might be wondering how a petite 19-year-old hijabi Malay girl ended up here. Well, it all started when she was 14.
So I started by playing video games with my brother, and so from video game we started watching wrestling on TV. So I never watch wrestling for every week, And then after 2 years, I decided I want to become a professional wrestler.
Since her victory at MyPW, though, Diana also gained a lot of haters for taking up professional wrestling.
Yeah, I get a lot of criticism, but Yeah, I don't really listen to the negative comments. I try to not to get into me so much. Yeah, I just try to ignore it.
I think it's pretty sad actually that our country is still in that level where people are still afraid of change. People are still very they do not accept change, like progress and everything, because I do believe that what she is doing is actually groundbreaking to a point where, because it's getting noticed by press from all over the world. She got noticed by big superstars from WWE, and then she's getting covered by big journalists like ESPN.
She makes no time for negativity, however, as a clear mind is essential to prepare for matches and training.
She basically trains twice a week for now, because professional wrestling is it's a very, very taxing kind of sports. We train for 4 hours per session, and it includes strength training, agility, speed, and explosive energy. And then we have to train them in the techniques and the safety of wrestling as well. And then there's the showmanship aspect of wrestling as well. When she trains no differently than any other boys in the club, because unfortunately it's just her here. Still, she's the only girl. So she has to kind of cope with it, and she needs to train with all the other boys. But it's also a good thing, because it kind of makes her excel even more, because she has to keep up with the speed and the strength of the guys. And I don't treat her differently in any way. Like, for example, if the boys have to do 60 push-ups, she needs to do 60 push-ups as well.
Now, if you didn't know, professional wrestling, an activity traditionally dominated by men, is where women are often depicted in sexy outfits. Nonetheless, Phoenix is able to set the ring on fire while still maintaining her modesty, and she has no plans to stop working towards her dreams and ambitions.
I want to make a name for myself, but my aim is I want to be able to wrestle in other countries like Japan, Europe, and United States. I just want to keep improving myself, yeah. I just wanted to make my parents proud, because I've been struggling to do this for about 3 years, and I think my time is now. I went viral. I got a lot of messages from girls that they say that I inspired them. They are very proud of me, and I am glad that I am able to doing this.
Women are still fighting to gain equality every day in life, and it's clearly no exception within the world of pro wrestling. But with the likes of Diana, more women in Malaysia will be more inspired to set their own standards.
Sabrina Zainal for 7Edition.
Now it's time for Clickbait, where we take a look at what's trending and making rounds in the cyber world today. A veteran Malaysia Airlines pilot who has spent his last 40 years flying for the company has given up his stripes of flying colours and decided to start anew, just to be closer to his daughters. The story of the 58-year-old father, which was shared by his 23-year-old daughter Safia Anissa on Twitter, warmed the hearts of many, with over 52,000 retweets and 72,000 likes. According to the tweet, Anissa, who had just graduated from flying school and landed a job with Air Asia, was very grateful by the surprise when she found out that her father, just before he retires, took the chance to fly with her and her sister Amira, who is a senior first officer. Her post was accompanied by selfies of them strapped into pilot seats and grinning at the camera. She mentioned how her father had earned his stripes through the years, starting as an MAS cadet after completing secondary school. With experience piloting aircrafts such as Boeing 747 and Airbus A380, he also became an instructor and examiner. But now, choosing family over his career, the man starts back as a junior. Twitter users who were touched by the story chimed in, sharing their experience working with him. One of them recounted how Anisa's father was his instructor during his flight training back in 1993. Another even shared a photo of him and the two sisters. Now updated as of 7 p.m, here are the top trending topics and searches on the internet today. Coming up, monsoon wreaks havoc in South Asia. Details after the break. We're back with some business news. Low-cost carrier AirAsia Group aims to maximize its underutilized asset cargo and logistics business, looking at an immediate 5% increment in space utilization following the newly entered partnership with Gobi Partners and Easy Parcel. Its group CEO Tan Sri Tony Fernandez said currently the airline only utilized 15% from the up to 60% allocated space for cargo and logistics, while the remaining 40 to 50% is for baggage. Tan Sri Fernandez spoke to the media after unveiling the rebranded cargo and logistics platform of AirAsia Teleport in Kuala Lumpur today.
I'm extremely excited about is Teleport, which is we're going to do what we did to people. Obviously, we made flying easier with now everyone can fly. We're going to hopefully make it easier for boxers to move around ASEAN and Asia, and that's what Pete's mandate is all about, is to do what we did with passengers for boxers.
Teleport, the rebranded cargo and logistics platform of AirAsia and leading venture capital firm Gobi Partners, have invested $10.6 million in regional e-commerce and parcel delivery player Easy Parcel. Under the partnership, Easy Parcel will leverage on Teleport's unrivaled logistics and infrastructure capabilities, which includes more than 100 cities, 10,000 AirAsia flights per week, and more than 1 million tons of cargo capacity. FBM KLCI lost 3 points today to close at 1,668 points as investors engage in a stock-picking in sector rotational play. The benchmark index performance was also pulled down by the downtrend in plantation, finance and utility sectors due to lower earnings margin. On to stocks to watch. Atlan Holdings Berhad is expected to continue operating in a challenging business environment. However, the stock remains favourable due to the company's resilient earnings and sustainable dividend payout. Atlan's core business division, duty-free, remains strong, posting a higher revenue contribution in the first quarter 2020. Attractive stock, definitely a buy. Now, post-Malaysia, Berhad's outlook is still expected to remain challenging in the short term. The performance of nearly all of its segments has deteriorated, and its Korea segment's margins have been impacted by rising price competition. Revenue growth from a possible postal tariff hike is also expected to be offset by lower postal volumes. Time to sell the stock. And last but not least, Johor Tin Berhad's recent merger and acquisition activities bode well for the company's business outlook. Its takeover for F&B Nutrition Sendirian Berhad provides a bigger room for product margin expansion in the future. The company's intended strategy to grow through the Mexican plant also remains intact, despite uncertainties from the US's trade negotiations. Thank you, Miza. Now in France, 3 children and an adult were killed after a train smashed into their car on Monday. 4 people aboard the regional train were also injured in the crash in the Marne region. 12 fire engines and 28 firefighters responded to the crash at around 9:45 a.m. According to initial indications, the car driven by a female child carer with 3 children as passengers had driven into the level crossing when the barrier was closed. It is believed that the barrier comes down automatically when a train is approaching. Authorities have opened an investigation but have yet to issue a statement. France's Transport Minister Elisabeth Borne announced plans earlier this year to improve safety at level crossings, including cutting the speed limit around some of the country's 14,500 level crossings. In 2018, 16 people died at level crossings in the country, down from 42 in 2017. Now, fans of the Kingsman film series would be delighted to know that the 3rd installment of the movie is set to premiere in 2020. The trailer for the Kingsman wraps up 7 Edition this evening. I'm Shafika Razali. Thanks for tuning in and good night.